And we'll break down the algorithm for the credit score. Now, the specific information is proprietary. What the bureaus do give us is general guidelines. So break down each of those guidelines and then we can go through each piece in more detail. Payment history is the biggest component that drives your credit score. This makes up 35% of your score. So the area of focus with payment history is looking at, do you make your payments on time at a basic level? You want to have 100% of your payments made on time. Anytime you have a delinquent payment, let's say you are 30 days past due or greater, on a credit card, you're going to see a drop in your credit score. If you're someone who has consistently always paid on time and you have one negative mark on your credit report from a late payment, you may see a huge decline in your credit score because this is very out of character for your typical behavior. The algorithm is saying, whoa, something's going on here. This person may be of higher risk because they don't typically pay late. Whereas someone who, let's say they have a history of making quite a few payments 30 days past due, proportionately each 30-day late mark is going to be worth less. It's a normal behavior of that person's credit file. They're likely going to have a lower credit score, of course, because they do have a history of late payments, but each new late payment isn't necessarily going to drop their score 100 points every single time. Some other items that impact that category of payment history are going to be a history of bankruptcy, repossessions, foreclosures, a charged off credit card, which is essentially a credit card that went unpaid and has a balance and now that company has charged off. Think of it like a foreclosure for a credit card. Anything that is negative or derogatory in nature. Another aspect would be a student loans that went unpaid and went into default. So these are all aspects that are going to bring your credit score down. Negative information stays on your credit report for 7 years. That payment history is going to remain on your report for 7 years from the date of that delinquency. As each delinquency ages, it will fall off every 7. A bankruptcy is a bit different. Depending on the chapter you file, that bankruptcy can stay on your report from anywhere from 7 to 10 years. Bankruptcies do stay on the report longer. Now, in the opposite case, positive history stays on your credit report for 10 years. That payment history is going to continue to help and to propel your score upwards as you consistently keep accounts open and consistently pay them on time. So a closed account will remain on your report for 10 years from the date of the closure. You'll just simply lose payment history as that timeline expires. The next factor that we can focus on for your credit score is utilization. Credit utilization is the second biggest factor to determining your credit score. It represents 30% of the credit score algorithm, if you will. What is utilization? That's essentially the credit limit versus your balance. This would apply specifically to anything that is a line of credit or called revolving debt. So a line of credit or a credit card. Utilization is not a factor with installment debt, which is things like auto loans, a mortgage, a personal loan. Anything that has what's called a set maturity date and a set payment amount does not factor into that utilization ratio. So utilization is extremely important because what it's looking at is you carry a low balance compared to your credit limit. The lower your balance, the better, right? It's less risk. You're carrying less debt. You're showing an ability to utilize that line of credit responsibly without maintaining a high amount of debt consistently over time. Somebody that has a high utilization is going to see a decrease in their credit score or find it difficult to see their score jump past potentially, in most cases, we'll say the high 6s to, in some cases, the low 7s. They won't be able to see that credit score continue to climb. It will become stagnant at a certain point until they pay their balances down. The next biggest factor is length of credit. So this is really just a measurement of how long you have had your accounts open, and that represents 15% of your credit score. Its average age of accounts is another word for it. So someone who opens accounts and closes them consistently is going to have a low average age of account. Or someone who recently opened a lot of new accounts, it's going to skew that average age down. So where you can really help your average age of accounts is, let's say you open a credit card, you don't use it much, you leave it sitting there with a low utilization or no balance, and you never close it. That's going to help keep your average age of accounts long. The credit score algorithm likes long history, likes the responsibility of seeing consistently over time someone can keep this account open, keep it in good standing, and not have any issues. It shows lenders and other creditors that you are someone that they want to let borrow from them. And that's really what that credit score algorithm is looking for in that category. The next category is new credit or inquiries. And this represents 10% of your score. New credit is essentially like we had mentioned previously, a lot of new accounts, inquiries, a lot of new inquiries. So inquiries will stay on your credit report for 2 years. If you do have a lot of inquiries, it can negatively impact your score. It's going to be pretty minimal, and we will talk about inquiries in more detail in another video. It's going to be a full topic of its own, as there's a lot of questions and a lot of myths out there about inquiries and how they impact your score. And then the final piece of the credit score algorithm is going to be your credit mix. This is the types of credit you have. You have a mixture of installment loans, again, that's going to be the personal loans, car loans, mortgages, and then revolving debt. Or do you only have revolving debt? Do you only have credit cards on your report? The algorithm wants to see a good mix, wants to know that it doesn't matter what type of credit is extended to you, whether it's revolving debt through a credit card or whether it's an auto loan, you have the ability to consistently pay and make your payments on time. It's looking for that well-rounded, credit-worthy individual. That's that final 10%. To summarize, all of these aspects do fully impact the credit score algorithm. The biggest ones we can focus on and the biggest one we have control over is gonna, of course, be that payment history aspect and then utilization. If you can control those two factors and really make sure you're always paying things on time and you're keeping low balances on your credit cards, and you have a credit card open, if you have no credit card open, you can't have the utilization portion factored into your score. Again, those two factors are the biggest ones to focus on primarily. We'll explore all of this in quite a bit more detail in the next video, so continue watching for more.